Sounds good.
Well, that was interesting. It's a Halmatic built in the UK in '83.
We had I was had a tanker that had MSC contract. So I was in the Persian Gulf back in the running from there. It was only out of respect for you that I put on khakis. It's the first time in 2 years.
And socks.
And socks. Match.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Baltimore Port Alliance's celebration of National Maritime Day, May 22nd, 2021, celebrated on the actual National Maritime Day. My name is and I am here today as your MC representing the Maritime Committee. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this oasis in the heart of the Port of Baltimore, the Vane Brothers Company. Many thanks to Duff and Betsy Hughes for their gracious hosting of today's. In a moment, we're going to introduce today's program. When we come back from the video, we will be presenting the colors, singing the national anthem, and having the invocation to the program. But before we do so, I would like to do one thing, which is a shout out to the indomitable, incomparable Joe Wyatt and his minions, formerly known as Jolettes for Rupert, who rarely get the credit that they deserve for helping make these events possible. So please, if you would give a big round of applause to Joe and the minions. And thank you. And with that, Kip, we can cut to the video. Thank you. Many thanks to Mike Wickline for the video. We really appreciate all the work that Mike does here in the port to promote the port. He's a fixture almost all the time, and he did a great job in putting that together for us. Our color guard today is a joint color guard combined from the Pentagon Division of the U.S. Naval Sea Corps, led by Commander Scott Corsano, and Sea Scout Ship 1808 of the Hartford District Baltimore Area Council of the Boy Scouts of America, led by Skipper Barbara Lash. The color guard will present the colors in a moment, and our own Katrina Jones of the Maryland Port Administration, 2020 Port Person of the Year for Baltimore, will lead us in the national anthem. I'm going to, when the anthem concludes and the color guard retreats with the colors, the Reverend Mary Davison of the Baltimore International Seafarers Center will come up for the invocation. Will you all now please rise for the presentation of
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free,
Let us pray. Loving God, thank you for all your gifts, especially bringing some of us together in person today, and others joining us from wherever they are watching. Open all our eyes to the courage and dedication of mariners here and around the world. Give us grateful hearts to honor them. to us the ways they protect our safety and well-being, they face. Strengthen everyone working at sea, threatened by terrorism, disease, or any other danger. Guide those who assist them, especially those seeking vaccinations. And comfort those who mourn for those they have lost. May we always revere the memory of Price. Grant this for the sake of your love.
Applause for our color guard and for Katrina and Mary, who is looking quite well, having recovering from a pedestrian accident she saw a few weeks ago, and we're grateful that she's able to be here with us today. We're now going to have several speakers offering welcome from the port. First up is Captain Eric Nielsen. He asked me to simply say he's the chairman of the Baltimore Port Alliance, the BPA. But, you know, that wouldn't quite be fair, seeing as the rest of the speakers have quite a bit of introduction. So I will simply remark that he's a graduate of the United States Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point. Hoorah, yes. Where all of you Kings Pointers in the crowd had a wonderful view. Friends of mine would be disappointed if I did not say SUNY Maritime College at Fort Schuyler. Not only is Eric the chair of the BPA, and it's not his doing that, he's also the president of the Association of Maryland Pilots, and recently announced 2021 Port Person of the Year. I give you Captain Nielsen.
Good morning, everybody. That was more than, but thank you anyway, Hart. And we do have some other graduates from the other maritime universities and schools in the area, and you're going to hear probably mention that. The Port of Baltimore's 2021 National Maritime Day commemoration. I'm Eric Nielsen, and as Erhard said, President of the Maryland Pilots and Chairman of the Baltimore Port Alliance. If you do not know about the Baltimore Port Alliance, it's a non-profit group dedicated to addressing the needs and interests of businesses and individuals who make their living and support their families through maritime commerce in the Port of Baltimore. Basically, we represent the people who are the subject of this commemoration and celebration. The BPA has been involved with the Baltimore National Maritime Day festivities starting in 2008 on board the NS Savannah. Since then, it grew and grew with more vessels participating until May when it was canceled by COVID. But thanks to Duff Hughes and Vane Brothers, we're here today at this beautiful site overlooking the number one port in the world. I also want to thank the NS Savannah Association, the John W. Brown Project Liberty Ship, and the Baltimore Chesapeake Steamboat Company for making this year's event possible. But most of all, I wish to thank all of my fellow maritime workers in the Port of Baltimore working throughout the pandemic. Many port workers do not have the option to work remotely and instead had to mask up, put on gloves, and work as usual. The city, state, and region are indebted to you. Hopefully we should not forget what the longshoremen, the truckers, warehouse workers, ship and tug crews, Coast Guard, CBP, and pilots, and so many other port workers have endured this past year to keep our economy alive and maintain our way of life as we know it. Thank you, all of you. And now, it's my privilege to share with you the proclamation from President Joe Biden regarding National Maritime Day 2021. America has been a proud to this day, the United States Merchant Marine is a pillar of our country's prosperity, playing a vital role in the maintenance of our economic and national security. Through every period of peace and war, our merchant mariners have been dedicated to protecting our freedom and promoting commerce. On National Maritime Day, we honor the steadfast commitment and sacrifices of the men and women who serve the United States Merchant Marine and recognize their essential role in safeguarding and strengthening our nation. Called the Fourth Armor of Defense by President Franklin D. Roosevelt during World War II, the Merchant Marine established itself as a cornerstone of sea lift support for our armed forces, sailing through theaters of war to deliver troops and supplies while keeping vital ocean supply lines operating. The perseverance and dedication of the Merchant Marine contributed to the Allied victory, even as they suffered one of the highest casualty rates of any of our military services. Our merchant mariners also play a critical role in times of peace. They ensure our economic security by keeping our coastal and inland waters open to trade, while United States flagged ships operated by American merchant mariners transport goods across our country and all over the world. United States maritime freight operations help support $5.4 trillion of economic activity among the many non-maritime industries that depend on the merchant marine for access to world markets. This movement of domestically and internationally continues to ensure America's economic competitiveness throughout the world, growing jobs and supporting businesses of all sizes here at home. Our merchant mariners are also critical to the United States' support and assistance to foreign nations and local communities hit hard by natural disasters and devastating crises. Even in the midst of the worldwide pandemic, these brave men and women have overcome insurmountable obstacles to fulfill their mission while keeping our nation's supply chains running. The operation of the United States flagged fleet is essential to contributing to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and landside congestion, helping provide current and future generations with a more sustainable means. The industry is also working to develop and implement new technologies to continue reducing emissions, an effort my administration is supporting through new international partnerships. The maritime industry has long provided opportunity for Americans of all backgrounds, and the merchant marine continues to advance a more equitable industry in which barriers to entry and advancement are eliminated. On this National Maritime Day, we honor the brave merchant mariners who provided critical support stationed in war zones and who are essential to our nation's economic success. Recognizing the contributions of our merchant mariners, my administration strongly supports protecting the Jones Act, the cornerstone of our domestic maritime industry. We must protect those who protect our country. The Congress, by joint resolution approved on May 20, 1933, has designated May 22nd of each year as National Maritime Day, by the steamship in 1819 by the SS Savannah. By this resolution, the Congress authorized the President to issue annually a proclamation calling for its appropriate observance. Now, therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim May 22, 2021 as National Maritime Day. I call upon all Americans to observe this day and to celebrate with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand this 21st day of May in the year of our Lord 2021 and the independence of the United States of America, the 245th. Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
It's now my honor to introduce William P. Bill Doyle, the Executive Director of the Maryland Port Administration. And he's that other Academy graduate that he's going to tell us about. Today we are very honored to welcome William Doyle, Executive Director of the MPA. Mr. Doyle was appointed to this position by Maryland Governor Larry Hogan in July 2020. As Executive Director, Mr. Doyle oversees and manages the Helen Delich Bentley Port of Baltimore's 6 state-owned public marine terminals. The marine terminals handle autos, break bulk, containers, cruise, farm and construction equipment, and forest products. Prior to his appointment to the MPA, Mr. Doyle was the CEO and Executive Director of America, a nonprofit trade association that represents the interests of the U.S. dredging and marine construction industry. and he served for 5 years, 2013 through 2018, as a federal maritime commissioner. Mr. Doyle MMA, the Massachusetts Maritime Academy, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in Marine Engineering. This is just a snapshot of the great accomplishments Mr. Doyle has achieved. Please welcome Bill Doyle.
The Massachusetts Academy. Thank you, Gerhard. Thank you, Captain Nielsen. The Maryland pilots, they are first-in-class professionals in the maritime industry. Good morning and happy National Maritime Day. I am Bill Doyle, Executive Director of the Maryland Port Administration, Port of Baltimore. I want to welcome my good friend, Admiral Mark Busby, Buzz Busby. Heave ho. You will not only see it, but you can participate in it. I want to welcome my new friends, Captain David O'Connell and his family, to the Port of Baltimore. Captain O'Connell took the helm as the U.S. Coast Guard 30th. Friends and guests, National Longshoremen's Association. I bring with me Governor Larry Hogan, Secretary of Transportation, and their sincerest appreciation for the U.S. Merchant Marine and the entire maritime industry. I want to thank Vane Brothers owners, Betsy Hughes and her son Duff, and the Vane Brothers family for providing today's venue. This is 1998, Baltimore born and raised. The company is the epitome of American success. Love of country, hard work, ingenuity, common sense, and a real genuineness. Beginning as ship chandlers, becoming sandwich builders, switched to steam, then to diesel, preserving through World War I and the Great Depression, persevering through both, supplied Coast Guard vessels, spy crafts, and Liberty ships during World War II, and exponentially expanded maritime services and locations over the past few decades. I highlight Vane Brothers not because it's just the forum they are providing today, but because National Maritime Day is a day of celebration and remembrance. We celebrate innovation in the maritime industry. This day has its roots in the world's first steamship to cross the Atlantic Ocean, the U.S.-built SS Savannah, which departed Georgia on May 22nd, 1819, landing in Liverpool, England, 29 days later. It is a day of remembrance because the U.S. Merchant Marine is known as the Fourth Armored Defense. The flag of the U.S. Merchant Marine reads, "In peace and war." This reflects the dual nature of the Merchant Marine: to support the nation's trade during times of peace, and the same time supporting our nation's role in wars and national defense. We remember those mariners who paid the ultimate sacrifice during service as United States merchant mariners. Indeed, it was the Merchant Marine that suffered the highest casualty rate during World War II, with 1 in every 26 mariners that went to sea killed by the Axis forces. This was the highest casualty rate of any branch of service. Today, let us celebrate National Maritime Day and remember those who served and sacrificed at sea. God bless the U.S. Merchant Marine. Thank you.
the Massachusetts Maritime. It's my pleasure now to welcome Captain David E. O'Connell, commander of Sector Maryland, National Capital Region. That's always a mouthful. For the United States Coast Guard, he also serves as captain of the Port of Baltimore. As Sector Commander, Captain O'Connell leads the execution and coordination of all maritime safety, security, and environmental missions. Prior to assuming command of Sector Maryland National Capital Region, Captain O'Connell served as the Chief of Prevention for the 5th U.S. Coast Guard District. In this position, Captain O'Connell oversaw the Coast Guard's prevention mission, including maritime safety, security, inspections, investigations, recreational safety, waterways management, aids to navigation, ice breaking, bridge management, and offshore energy projects for the Mid-Atlantic region from New Jersey to the North Carolina-South Carolina border. That's quite a handful. That's quite a pedigree. Captain O'Connell is a native of East New York. If you can't tell from my Long Island accent, that's not far from my hometown, Smithtown. He's been married to his wife, Kelly, for 21 years, and they have 2 children, Quinn and Lane. Please welcome Captain O'Connell.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Just want to thank our distinguished guests here today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to the DPA, the pilots, Bain Brothers, for hosting this event. Very excited to be here in the port of Baltimore, a port steeped in maritime tradition and history. I live in downtown Baltimore, right across the harbor there, so exciting to walk around and see all the different historical sites within the harbor. To be here today to join and the Day of Remembrance. We celebrate our merchant marine and remember those who gave their lives in support of our country, the ultimate sacrifice. As Mr. Doyle said, they sustained the most losses of any branch of service in World War II. But we need to remember the living as well. In today's economy, we rely on the merchant mariner to provide economic prosperity, not only in the port of Baltimore, but throughout the country. We also rely on them to keep our maritime waterways safe and secure for everyone. To that end, the COVID-19 pandemic has put a lot of stress on the merchant mariner, specifically with shore leave restrictions, I'm just going to give a public plug here. Coast Guard recently mental health and physical health of mariners. Our experience these stresses to not worry about their credential being jeopardized if they need to seek help. So I want to guarantee you, as the captain of the port here in Baltimore, that would be the case. If anyone's out there struggling, if you know a mariner that needs help, encourage them to seek that help. They will not. That will not be held against them. Again, I've been here for 3 weeks on the job. This is the first tour of many. I look forward to meeting everyone in person here within the port. Captain Neal, I'm meeting with Captain Doyle here soon. I look forward to meeting with the Bain Brothers folks as well. I'll turn it back over to you, Joe.
As Captain Nielsen mentioned in his remarks, there are three organizations that help put together today's commemoration of Maritime Day. We're going to pause for a moment and recognize with. And while we're doing so, on the Zoom, some photographs of the vessels are going to be presented. While we're doing that, our next set of speakers will be Historical Trust and retired, but certainly far from retired, on the platform in preparation for their speaking. Project Liberty is best known as the organization that promotes the constructed of this lawn just off preservation of the USS John W. Brown, a living memorial to the men and women of American industry, Liberty Fleet, and to the merchant steam and naval owners who sailed the ships across all the oceans of the world. John Brown was launched on Liberty ships 13 voyages during her active, and at the end of 1946 she entered a new and noble phase of life as a maritime vocational high school for the city of New York. She was engaged in that trade, and thousands upon thousands of young men trained on board John W. Brown. I don't know if it went co-ed, but let's assume it did and say women too. She ended that service at the end of 1982, spent a brief period of time in MARAD's James River Reserve Fleet before coming home to Baltimore in 1988, and brought back to life, steaming for the first time under its own power in so many decades, on August 24th, 1991. She's back across the harbor. You may be able to see her in the distance. A nonprofit that preserves, interprets, and supports industrial maritime heritage efforts in the Helen Dillich Bentley, Port of Baltimore, and the Chesapeake Bay region. The present BNCSC grows out of a group of folks who were formed to support the steam tug Baltimore, the last coal-fired steam tug in the United States, in North America, that is presently an accession at the Baltimore Museum of Industry. The steam tug Baltimore was constructed in 1906 here in Baltimore, and it remains an artifact, a National Historic Landmark in the care of the Baltimore Museum of Industry. Finally, the Nuclear Ship Savannah Association. The NSSA is a nonprofit dedicated to the preservation and interpretation of the nuclear ship Savannah. It grows out of the entire organization that 1962 to 1970. Longer careers either in the maritime industry, many in the nuclear industry, but it was a very tight-knit group, and they came together for the 80s and 90s. The Savannah itself was constructed under the auspices of the Eisenhower administration's peace program, and as I mentioned, operated until 1970. It was built by the United States Maritime Administration, who owns it and who has birthed it here in the Port of Baltimore in 2008. And of course, she's across the way, dressed out for National Maritime Day, and as Captain Nielsen mentioned, we hope that next year we'll be back on board with the Expo at Pier 13, celebrating National Maritime Day 2021. You know, we mentioned the mentioning Helen. I'll just say 63 years ago on National Maritime Day, on another beautiful day just like today, Helen Dillich was in Camden, New Jersey for the keel-laying ceremony of the nuclear ship Savannah. We were all very proud to know her, and we all miss her. She's been gone now 5 years. Same without her, but we carry on her traditions, we carry on her desires, we love her port, and we will do that as long as we are able. It's now my pleasure to introduce Kip Snow, Distribution and Maritime Logistics Program at the Community College of Baltimore County. He is responsible for academic credit programming and continuing education training that supports workforce development for the Baltimore region. CCBC is partners with TradePoint Atlantic and the Port of Baltimore, providing quality for the current and future workforce. CCBC is a 2021 Center of Excellence for Domestic Maritime Workforce Training and Education as designated by the Maritime Administration. Please welcome Kip.
Thank you. Hello, honored and distinguished guests who are attending today, as well as friends and family. Thank you for today for joining us for this occasion to celebrate National Maritime Day, not only to commemorate the American steamship Savannah's voyage across the Atlantic in 1819, but to also celebrate the maritime industry as a whole. This includes the talented and skilled workforce here in Baltimore, supporting the freight movement and maritime operations around this region. Baltimore's history is rich in commerce transactions and will continue to be the backbone of the industry for many, many years to come. Port of Baltimore is successful because of the men and women who have committed their efforts to achieving the port's tradition of excellence. There are so many benefits to the Port of Baltimore's success, including the direct and indirect jobs that are created in a growing and booming economy. But to continue this success, we must remain a global leader in the maritime industry. We must make sure to continue to support our men and women who make up this workforce in and around the Port of Baltimore. As technology changes, our port must grow with the technological advances to remain competitive and continue to enhance skills of our workers. This educational and training partners are poised to support the local maritime industry, providing the enhanced training for the safe and efficient operations of cargo through our port. Through the partnerships that continue to be built, together we will further solidify Baltimore's reputation of a strong, efficient, and quality port. I personally believe that the workforce and labor is the greatest asset that the port can have. For all of the people who have been employed in the maritime industry or have been employed in the past, we thank you for the work that you have done. That this is a very necessary industry that our nation depends on. I'm here with you today, and I look forward to quest for the best port in the world. Thank you.
Kip's heading back to doing, and a great contribution he is making is he's running the Zoom, the YouTube live stream. So thank you very much to Kip for that. Sorry, I'm off by a page. Our next speaker is Susan Langley, the state underwater archaeologist for the state of Maryland, the Maryland Historical Trust. Susan is going to speak about some of the archaeological treasures that we maybe never think about in the Port of Baltimore, even though we see them from time to time, particularly off the Beltway. Susan has directed the Maryland Maritime Archaeology Program for more than 27 years and serves as both the state underwater archaeologist and dive safety officer for the Maryland Historical Trust and the State Historic Preservation Office. She has taught at numerous public and private colleges and universities is currently an adjunct professor at St. Mary's College of Maryland, where she instructs an introduction to underwater archaeology, the anthropology of pirates and piracy, and a new fiber, textiles, and trade course. Again, Dr. Langley also taught maritime archaeology in Thailand for several years, the Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization, part of UNESCO. She's been diving since 1975 and is a master scuba diver trainer, judges Maryland's History Day competition, and lectures and leads expeditions globally. As a beekeeper, she kept a hive at Government House for almost 10 years for 2 gubernatorial administrations, and I'm sure the governors tried to stay in her good graces while the bees were alongside. With that, please welcome Susan Langley.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be invited to participate in today's event. And I would actually add on that I need to catch up with you, Captain, because we also represent the State Historic Preservation Office for federal responses for oil spills and hazmat spills to protect historic resources that either caused them or might be getting oiled by them. So you'll see me at prep exercises as well. As a maritime archaeologist, I usually do experience vessels demise, often with tragic associations, but certainly the Port of Baltimore has an embarrassment of wonderful resources, both afloat and submerged. Ghoulish. Every time I'm eyeing up one of our historic vessels, they're going, "You're waiting for it to claim it," but no, not truly not. I'm going to take us back a little farther today than what I did want to talk about vessels with a positive legacy at the time. In 1917, the United States Shipping Board was tasked with building 1,000 wooden steamships in 18 months to Allied nations. Earlier than they thought, never a bad thing, but at war's end, fewer than 300 had been completed. For many, the project was deemed a failure, but what was not recognized at the time was that the shipyards built and the construction skills developed there during World War I were what rocketed America to the forefront of shipbuilding for the 20th century. And while we've always had merchant marines, the need to have the same standards to man 1,000 ships formalized the American merchant marine. Keeping at the time, merchant mariners' First World War service was never formally recognized. Subsequent and ship-breaking operations sustained many families in southern Maryland and a remote, impoverished area through the Great Depression. While the main body of the fleet forms the new Mallows Bay Potomac River National Marine Sanctuary, there are still clusters of vessels sold into private service in the past in Virginia, Texas, and actually include 18 which skirt Hawkins Point. So, Captain, if you haven't seen them, I'll give you a tour. 18 of them skirting our promontory. These ghost fleets, as they're popularly dubbed, now play significant roles in heritage tourism and the educational interpretation of America's maritime history. In his retiring editorial for the newsletter Marine Link, Dennis expressed concern about automated unmanned vessels from the perspective of both safety and the continued employment of merchant mariners. And he made the statement, "The sea demands constant vigilance." Certainly this resonates with anyone who's spent time at sea, but it underscores that we must never underestimate the valuable contributions and the service of the merchant mariners that we commemorate and honor today. Thank you.
I introduce our keynote speaker, Rear Admiral Mark Busby, we're going to take a moment to recognize the vessels that are here attending today. Water, we have a representation of vessels from the port in pride of place. Pride of Baltimore 2. For a little while, she was blind. Baltimore 2 is America's star-spangled ambassador. Commissioned in 1988, successor and memorial to her President Pride of Baltimore, tragically lost in 1986. Her mission is to promote historical maritime education, foster economic development, and tourism, and to represent the people of Maryland in every business. Since her commission, Pride 2 has sailed over 250,000 nautical miles, visited more than 200 ports in over 40 countries in North and South and Central America, Europe, and Asia. Pilots. Now we are here, of course, in the floor, and we can see the, well, we can't quite see because of that beautiful working ro-ro car carrier. But off to our stage left is the Battle of Baltimore. So even so, we no longer have any. You were wondering where I was going with that, Eric, right? She was built in Havant, England. She's a Halmatic 44 with twin, designed to carry 2 crew and 2 pilots in Dundalk. The oldest vessel among those attending, aside of course from the rather more ancient ones across the way. Our own host Vane Brothers have supplied the tug. Now, Bill Doyle spoke very highly of Vane Brothers, and I'm very happy he did. If he had not, but one of the great things about Vane Brothers is its commitment to its home state. Delaware is one of many tugs that Vane has constructed here in Maryland at the Chesapeake Shipbuilding Company in Salisbury. She's a 3,000 horsepower model bow tug, the 14th in the series, and a very familiar presence in the port of Baltimore as she conducts primarily ship bunkering operations here in the port. We also have with us Alistair, known as the Leah, is a ship assist docking tug, everything, a tractor tug. She can spin on she's one of the first tractor tugs in Baltimore for 8 years. Now, we also have off to our stage right a Moran tug. Which one it is? It's that far to read the name. Earth that pierced Moran between 2002 and 2006. Become used to now. I would like to give a shout out to the Lynn Moran. I don't know if she's the one out there, but a year ago we had one of those unusual events that you never like to repeat on board a ship or on a pier, as it turned out, where the boatswain was inadvertently knocked into the water. The crew on the Lynn noticed the commotion, heard for help, and immediately came over to assist in retrieving the person from the water in the finest tradition of the merchant service. And so we'd like to take a great round of thanks to the Morans. Mark Busby, okay, USN retired. I've known the Admiral for 4 years as the Maritime Administrator. I asked him for the intro and he says, well, you know it well enough. So I'm going to say, again, he is a proud graduate of, what was that school, Eric? The United States Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point. He served a very long career in the United States Navy, culminating with command of the Military Sealift Command, from which he retired. President of the National Defense Transportation Association before being tapped by President Trump to become Maritime Administrator. Now, one of the little-known facts of Admiral Busby's tenure as Maritime Administrator, besides the fact that he served an entire term, which is somewhat unusual, Admiral Busby, for the first time in living memory, was the Maritime Administrator, was the first modal administrator confirmed in the Department of Transportation. And it speaks highly both to his qualifications as well as the regard for which MARAD was held in the previous administration. And I can tell you, as employees, we truly appreciate that. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Rear Admiral Mark.
Thank you, Earhart, and good afternoon, everybody. Great to be with you. I know it's hot, so I will be brief and to the point. Betsy and Duff, thank you very much for joining us in this beautiful facility. This is truly magnificent and great to be here. Shout out to my classmate Tom Lamb from the great class of 1969 from Kings Point. Good to have you, shipmate. Good to see you. My wife Gina is here joining us, and good friends Todd and Stacy Getz. If that Getz name sounds familiar, that's a good old Baltimore name. The Getz family has run any company for generations, well over 100 years in Baltimore. If you like cowtails and you like caramel creams, thank Todd Getz right there. So good to have you guys with us here today. This is the 88th commemoration of Maritime Day, and I think it's very fitting that we actually do a ceremony here in the Port of Baltimore, the Helen Bentley Port of Baltimore. I think if we didn't do that, and I weren't here to actually participate in it, I would send down a lot of there'd just be smoke standing here at the podium. She was a great friend, a great believer. She once told me toward the end of her life, Admiral Busby, I love you like a son, but I will never forgive you for taking my ship, the Comfort, out of this harbor. Usually accompanied by a rat by her chain on my shins. So I feel kind of beholden to help you all. Obviously, a day set aside here where we remember and commemorate the sacrifices of merchant mariners, both afloat and ashore, who support them, who have gone before us. Of our merchant marine, basically the history of our merchant marine, going back to Pride of Baltimore days in the early days of our merchant marine up until today, with the most recent vessels you see behind you there arrayed. This has been a particularly challenging year for our merchant marine. As was pointed out, COVID introduced stresses that have been and experienced by our merchant marine. Even in times of war, you know, people could come and go and be in close proximity of one another. The special requirements due to the COVID-19 restrictions placed just unbelievable stress on our mariners, the way they did business, and a lot of it was a pickup game. From my time back at MARAD when this all kind of occurred, we were kind of figuring it out along with the Coast Guard, and as we went along. And it was really thanks to the ingenuity of the mariners that are today to figure out how to keep our maritime industry functional. Because you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we couldn't afford to take an hit. This was one mode of transportation that had to keep going. no matter what, and I'm talking both domestically and internationally. There was not a choice on whether to stop sailing or to keep sailing. It had to keep happening. It had to go through. So one of the greatest joys that I had as the administrator was to tell that story of how for the first about 5 months or so of COVID, there were 0 incidents of COVID aboard U.S. flag ships, because the mariners did such a great job. In many cases, it meant quarantining on board and not letting other people on board the ship, or not letting them inside the house, or wiping down surfaces, or using the each other on the ships. They truly rose to the occasion in a way, quite frankly, that mariners always have in peace and war. They always have. They shown us how to do it, and they really were a bright light across all of the modes of transportation. I used to love to sit at morning meetings with the secretary, and all of my fellow modal administrators were sort of telling their tales of woe about how transit had been shut down, about how trains weren't running, about how trucks had been restricted from moving. And when it came to me, I said, we're operating, ships are sailing, people are showing up, things are moving. And everybody just sort of looked both jealously and I think happily that such a key part of our economy was still intact and was still moving forward regardless of COVID. And I think we can't thank our mariners enough. People that supported them, our partners in the Coast Guard, our partners at centers of dockside workers, or longshoremen, everybody that assisted to keep things going, ensured that we were able to sail in peace and war and COVID. I don't think we're going to change the flag, but I think all of us that have weathered the storm and now have pretty much come out on the other side, we're going to remember this as one of the bright spots again in the United States Merchant Marine. I would just end by saying, for those who would suggest that the Jones Act was irrelevant and should be repealed and had no place in the American I ask you to think what here, running our boats, conducting our internal commerce amidst this last crisis. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it wouldn't have happened. So God bless our nation, God bless our mariners who serve every day, and God bless you all. Thank you all very much.
Rusby has graciously agreed to lead us in the annual singing of Heave Ho. So we will turn the mic back over to him.
You have the words in your program.
At the end, I'll go ahead and get your help. Any pointers out there, I'm counting on you to be loud and proud. But when we get to that submarine, I want to hear it loud from everybody that we're going to dance. Heave-ho, long, long way to go. Braving the wind, braving the sea, fighting the treacherous foe.
Heave-ho,
Heave-ho, my lads, heave-ho. Let the seas roll high or low. We can cross any ocean, sail any river. Give us the goods and we'll deliver. Damn the submarine! We're the men of the Merchant Marine. Yeah!
All right.
That was great. Thank you. We're coming near to the end of the program. Turn that over there. Coming near to the end of the program. We're now going to observe National Maritime Day with our wreath laying and moment of silence and 8 bells. The order as it's described in the program. We're going to ask Monsignor John Fitzgerald, Captain USN retired after 31 years, to please come forward for the blessing of the wreath. Monsignor Fitzgerald is retired now also from the Apostleship of the See of the Archdiocese of Baltimore. The wreath laying at waterside will be taken on by Admiral Busby and Captain O'Connell. We want to give thanks to Maisie Cummings Rocky, president of the Baltimore Steamboat Company, who provided the wreath. It is an all-natural wreath that will not be retrieved from the water, and Maisie is attending the wreath here. After the wreath laying, we will observe a moment of silence to an instrumental of Eternal Father that will be played right here on the mic. And Betty Hughes, matriarch of Vane Brothers, will be our bell ringer today. She will strike 8 bells to end the 8 bells is not the end of the program. Do not turn off your live feed at home, and do not get up out of your chairs and start to leave, because it is not the end of the program. Betsy will be accompanied by her son, Duff, President Duff Hughes, president of Vane Brothers. So, Monsignor.
Well, with a sense of humor, Admiral, I have a word for you. One of my last jobs in the Navy was to be the chaplain for the submarine of the whole Pacific Fleet. And I learned to ride the attack ships, the attack boats, and the big boomers around. And our name for you was Target. Now, with a long thread through the years, we have the blessing and the throwing of a wreath into the deep waters. The waters upon which those who we celebrate today are commemorated with our prayers and our hearts.
Now for a moment of silence.
Thank you. Let's have a warm round of applause for Betsy and Duff, Senior, Admiral Busby, and Captain O'Connell and Maisie, please. You may all take your seats. In a moment, I'll call Katrina back up. We're going to conclude our program with our traditional singing of God Bless America, to be followed by a cannon shot at the end. So Kip, you're going to have to come back over here with your lighter. Now, as Admiral Busby remarked, Helen would be shooting lightning bolts if we weren't singing gun dog style. Get up, socially distanced next to you, and we're going to be singing together. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. At the conclusion of our song, we will fire the cannon shot. We expect to get a cannon shot in reply from Pride. Horns and whistles begin to sound. The water tugs do their dance. After which we will have a short closing credits video, again by Mike Windwick. All of those who made today possible. Please, if you're online, don't log off until the closing credits. We would like you all to make it possible. And again, I'd like to make a special thanks to Kip Snow for making the live feed possible, and CCBC. We really appreciate that. Finally, Mike asked me to remind everybody the cannon is loud, and just be prepared for a loud report at the conclusion of the song. All right? And thank you all. Folks, if you want to come up, you can see the water cannons off to the left, your right.